Yep, here we go. DHL Express. They now have to pay $8.7 million for allegedly segregating workers. This is not the 60s. This is now. Put it up for a mass. Hell of a thing. Teamsters win $8.7 million in racial discrimination lawsuit against DHL. Big ups to the Teamster Union for being able to pull this off. Teamsters Local 705 members of Chicago have agreed to an $8.7 million settlement in a racial discrimination lawsuit against DHL Express, filed 14 years ago with the assistance of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. The suit accused DHL of assigning Black Teamsters inferior job roles compared to white employees and violating the 1964 Civil Rights Act by basing job assignments on race. The settlement was announced by Teamsters in a statement on April 24th. For 5 years, until they filed the suit in 2010, Black workers documented dozens of incidents in which they were given less desirable, more difficult, and more dangerous route and dock assignments than their white counterparts. At the same time, Black drivers said they were relegated to routes in predominantly Black neighborhoods while steering the white drivers to areas populated mostly by white people. An investigation led by Chicago District Director John Rowe supported the claims in EEOC versus DHL Express USA Inc. Quote, while this may not have been obvious to employees at first, over time, a pattern of segregation emerged. Rowe concluded as part of the EEOC's administrative investigation leading to the federal action. Previously, John Hendrickson, the EEOC's regional attorney in Chicago, blasted DHL for continuing segregationist practices that have been outlawed in the United States for decades in a news release. Hendrickson said, quote, the concept of separate but equal has long since been rejected. It has absolutely no place on the job. Everyone should understand that federal law. This title expressly forbids the segregation of employees. The case underscores the enduring legacy of discriminatory practices from the Jim Crow era, demonstrating how racism can echo and persist in contemporary society, while often hidden behind the walls of large corporations. After slavery, discriminatory practices were enshrined in laws and national customs that enforced racial segregation and marginalized Black people following their liberation. DHL recently agreed to a settlement and entered into a consent decree with the federal government, while an EEOC monitor has been appointed to ensure that DHL pays the fines and takes other actions to curtail any further discrimination at the company. Let's put them up. Established in 1969, DHL has a notorious track record of disregarding labor laws and employee rights. Representing over 6,000 DHL workers nationwide, the Teamsters Union highlighted in a lawsuit instances of oppressive management practices, such as referring to workers as inmates at DHL Cincinnati hub. Despite a physical assault by a white supervisor against a Black worker in 2022, the company failed to take disciplinary action, allowing the perpetrator to remain at his position. John Pearson is the global CEO for DHL Express. Bill Hamilton, director of the Teamsters Express division and Teamsters Eastern Regional International Vice President, said, quote, the mistreatment of Chicago Teamsters lays bare DHL's indifference to human rights and basic laws in the U.S. DHL is an unethical corporation that has no respect for the workers who make its executives so rich. Established in 1903, the Teamsters is an international labor union that represents 1.3 million workers across the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. That's a win. That's a win for the Teamsters. I have some members of my family who are part of the Teamsters Union, and they are active members of their local. All right, Jordan, thoughts here?
Yeah, that's the most important point point of this story. There is power in a union, and that union was able to argue on the workers' behalf. They had much more resources than if these people came individually, and they got a huge settlement. There is power in a union, and that is one of the many, many benefits. There's benefits to being in the workforce and you're not unionized. You should be, but when a factory or when a shop organizes and collectively bargains, there's data that shows that wages for competitors increase. Now imagine if you had more unions across the board, what that would look like for workers nationwide. So if you can, unionize your workplace. This is a really great development.
That's right. That's right.